Hi, everyone. I decided to do my literature review on what factors affect the RD exam pass rate. I thought this topic was very important for future registered dietitians who are going to take the exam or who have failed the exam to understand what factors could affect them passing the RD exam and what factors can help them to pass the RD exam. This will let them have an option to read something that can help them to pass the exam. So, what is a RD? As we all know, a registered dietitian is an educated individual trained in food and nutrition science and dietetics practice. Dietitians can be employed by many industries that could be healthcare, inpatient and outpatient, business and industry, community and public health, like WIC, schools, colleges, and universities. You can be employed by the military, government, any type of research like Pennington Biomedical Research Center in Baton Rouge, any type of wellness and fitness centers, hire dietitians as on an outpatient basis, any type of private practice, and communications. So my paper starts off, like we said, what is a RD? Then it goes into the different avenues of what it takes to become a dietitian. There are two avenues that you can take to be a registered dietitian. You can have a coordinated program, which is what Nichols has is going to have is the coordinated program in the fall of 2023. And then you can do a didactic program, which is your undergrad program with the dietetic internship. And ASCEND has to accreditate those colleges, universities, those programs. They have to be have ASCEND accreditation. So after we talk about what is a registered dietitian, what it takes to be a registered dietitian, my paper flows into the internship, what it takes to get into the internship. As of right now, you have to complete 1,000 hours. It used to be 1,200 hours, but now that as of January 1st of 2024, since the master's degree would be required, they decided to decrease the hours to 1,000 instead of 1,200. So those 200 hours are going to be used to complete master's, will help complete master's coursework. Also, within the internship part of my paper, I also talk about what the interviews look like for an internship. These programs, they're looking for a well-rounded student. When we're going to go into that, where they're looking at GPA, possible ACT, GRE scores, work and volunteer experience. Those are all things that when you're doing a dietetic internship interview, in order to get matched with a program, those are the things that the program is looking for, a well-rounded student that can meet all those criteria. Next, we go into the acceptance rate. So back in 1993, they had 1,005 openings for dietetic internships and a 53% acceptance rate, which is a half acceptance rate is really not that great. When I graduated in 2015, it was about a 50% acceptance rate. So a lot of people ended up not getting in, only half. Where if you jump to last year's numbers, 2022, they had 4,251 openings and a 73% acceptance rate. So the acceptance rate increased, and that is because the openings for dietetic internships, there were a lot of programs that were starting to open and have been opened. since 1993, and even I would say from 2015, because now when I graduated Nichols in 2015, there was no dietetic internship. And then starting in 2017, the dietetic internship came back to Nichols. So these programs, they're trying to do more programs in areas to increase this acceptance rate for the dietetic interns, which is great. But also could mean a oversaturation for these programs. Next, I talk about the pass rate in my paper. So I'm going from acceptance rate to the pass rate. Per statistics from the registration examination for dietitians back in 1987, they went all the way back to 1987. That's when they started having statistical numbers. I'm sure they've had them, they've probably had them since, like before 1987, but I just couldn't find it. So 1987. The first testing was 1,638 examinees with a pass rate of 89%. That is great. So right now, the pass rate for the programs, they want all these programs to be at an 80% pass rate, but the national pass rate, I think, is in the 50% range. Last year, statistics shows that the first testing was 1,719 examinees with a pass rate of 68%. So if you see, there was a little bit of a decrease in examinees, and there was also a decrease in the pass rate. It went from 89% to 68%. So that is very concerning, and hopefully this will help future RDs understand how to study and what to study and what factors can affect the studying so we can get that pass rate up. GPA was one of the criteria studied that can show effects for the pass rate. There was a study for the DTR exam, which is Dietetic Technician Registered, and it resulted in college GPA significantly influencing the pass and fail rates on the DTR exam. So it showed a positive correlation that the higher the GPA was for these exams, the higher pass rate, So, but then there's conflicting evidence where for the physician assistants, or it's called the PANCE test, the physician assistants, there was no correlation identified between student success for pass or fail between the PANCE score, the didactic GPA, overall pre-admission GPA, science prerequisite GPA, or extent of prior healthcare experience. So it really just depends. There's back and forth evidence of, there are some studies showing that GPA is an indication of possible increased pass rates. And then there's also studies that show that there is no correlation between GPA and a pass rate. And I will say from my experience, I did not have a good overall GPA. That's why I didn't get into the internship the first time when I graduated my undergrad in 2015. But I did pass my test the first time. So my hypothesis going forward is that it really depends on your study habits. And I personally do not think that GPA, the GRE, the ACT score, all of these criteria that we're looking for to see if this will affect the pass rate, I really don't think that that's what's affecting the pass rate. I truly think that it's study habits that are affecting the pass rate. So from GPA, we look into ACT and GRE. The ACT is a standardized test that you use to get into college. Everybody has to take it in order to get into college. And the GRE, you have to take to get into graduate school. The GRE is also a standardized test. More programs are starting to do away with the GRE testing due to the lack of students willing to complete an advanced degree because of having to take the GRE, and programs are starting to realize that standardized tests do not test students' full potential. Personally, I do not do well on standardized tests. My ACT I took several times, like we're going towards 10 times probably, and I was kept getting the same score every time. I'm not good at standardized tests. I also took the GRE back in 2015, and I did not do well on the GRE. So that just goes to show you that standardized tests, I'm in agreement that it does not test a student's full potential. I've known people that did great on the ACT and got tops their whole time of their college career and took the GRE, went to a prestige internship and couldn't pass the RD exam. So I'm in agreement that standardized tests are not meant for everybody and it does not show a student's full potential. The last thing that I looked into was study habits. So looking into study habits, having a balanced and attainable study schedule is very important. Having that study schedule that you can balance and that is attainable will help decrease the stress of you studying, and it'll increase the confidence that you need to have in order to take the RD exam. From experience, you have to go into the RD exam with confidence. You cannot second guess yourself, because if you second guess yourself, you're going to be second guessing yourself the whole time. Then you're going to start getting nervous and panicking, and that does not make a good testing criteria. That doesn't make good testing criteria. You can't do that. So you have to be as least stressed out as you can be, and you have to have that confidence that you know what you're talking about, and you have to go with your gut feeling and pick the first answer. Different study habits can be anything from reading, writing, making observations, memory, note taking, and practicing examinations. If you ever look into what people study or how they study the RD exam, a lot of people will say that they take a lot of practice exams and they go over these questions, they write them down, they, read a lot, they're reading these study materials, they're rewriting, they're watching videos, they're doing everything that they possibly can to be able to grasp this information, because the RD exam there's going to be a couple things where you just have to memorize it, but majority of the tests is being able to use your critical thinking skills and pick which answer is the best, because there's gonna be 4 choices on the exam. Out of the 4, 2 of them are gonna be the best, but you got to pick which one is better. And you have to be able to understand and explain why that answer is the best and why that answer is right compared to all the other answers. So, and these were my references, and I hope that this helps you better understand what factors affect the RD exam pass rate.